Yo, what's goody, everybody? Today's topic, leadership. Be the example. Ignore your age and your title. They're both meaningless in this conversation because the impact you have on others can be felt across any generation. Today's focuses are you, your influence, and humility. So now that we're live, let's dive. Point number 1, be the example. Being a leader is all about you. It's about more than just words. It's about what you do. Tom Brady says it starts with mindset. Tom Brady has 15 Pro Bowls with 3 MVPs, but it's his 7 Super Bowl wins that allow him to reign supreme. He says, if you don't believe in yourself, why is anyone else going to believe in you? The purpose of that quote is that as a leader, you're in the forefront. Your team is looking at you for what to do. So these are the 3 things I've identified that separates a great leader from a poor one when it comes to being the example. And the first thing are your actions. A poor leader barks commands, while a great leader sets the tempo. Because if your team hasn't seen you do anything, they don't really know where to go. So for sports, a coach tells their players to improve, you should get up extra shots or go ahead and study some tape. But instead, a great coach insists on staying back to rebound and explains what to take away. A poor professor tells his students, in order to succeed, you need to study 3 times as much as me to get A's and B's. Instead, what a great professor does is creates a study guide for his students to succeed. And then for work and sales, a poor manager just tells his reps to dial on the phones and canvas all day, when instead a great manager goes out with them in the field and coaches them up every step of the way. So then the next thing is culture, where a poor manager just preaches while a great manager upholds. This way, when his team is looking up to see what to do, they know what's being told. A poor manager will simply just say, be on time, be focused, and ready to grind, because this is your career. But then you're looking back at them and you're saying to yourself, you're always tardy, you're rarely present, and then you take a lot of vacations, so you're never even here. Instead, what a great manager does is they arrive early and on time, and they're prepared and ready to grind because they understand the importance of this being your time and mine. And the last thing is mindset, where a poor manager is oftentimes pessimistic because if you don't believe, why would they? Your negative energy is just going to lead them astray. Instead, a great manager is optimistic because they understand that they're the key to unlocking their next gear. So when their employees end up having any type of fear, they remind them that they are here. So Tom Brady says, you put all the other stuff aside and go out and do your job. And mine is to be the best I can be for my teammates. Him being committed to his craft and leadership for 20 years is what allowed him and his teams to be so great. So that's what leads me into point number 2. Point number 2, connect individually. Regardless of how strong you are or how great you think you might be, you can only get so far without a team. Barack Obama says, teamwork is the key to growth. Former US president won his presidential campaigns by unifying the people. These are his words on teamwork. What is important is that we make sure to work together, that we understand our strength comes from unity and not division. The purpose of that quote is to bring awareness to everyone that we're all cogs in a machine. Regardless of your role, you are important to me. These are the 3 things that I've identified that separates a great leader from a poor one when it comes to unity. And the first one is messaging. Generalize versus personalize. We've all heard a general message from our leader or from our coach in which they say, we're going to go out this season to accomplish a goal and then they play a motivational message from a figurehead, but then we're all looking at each other saying, that's not going to stick in my head. And then if it's the third, fourth, or fifth time, well, it might as well just be dead. Instead, what a great leader does is create a personalized message for their team. They get to know them and figure out what motivates them, what drives them, and what makes them tick. That way, when he delivers his presentation, it always hits. Then the next thing is goal setting. A poor manager will oftentimes set a lofty goal regardless of who's on their team. And then when they fail, instead of looking at themselves, they blame you and me. What a great leader does is they create personalized goals for every member of their squad. Like Tom Brady always says, don't focus on the Super Bowl, focus on next week. That is what's guaranteed to make you compete. Then the last thing is all about your motives. Poor manager oftentimes is only motivated for themselves. So they'll treat their subordinates one way and then their superiors another, but it's so blatantly obvious you can't even hide it from your mother. Instead, what a great leader does is they focus on their team, they're genuine, and it resonates. That's what makes everyone believe. That way, when your team goes out there, they're fighting tooth and nail in order to achieve. Now, you're not going to connect with everyone, and sometimes relationships could even worsen. But Barack Obama says, even when things are tough, don't lose respect for the other person. Because if you lose respect, you fail as a leader. Because after all, you're the key to their next gear. So even when times are tough or grim, you need to remind them that you are here. That's what leads me into point number 3. Point number 3, have grace. We need to have grace for others because nobody's perfect. We need to let all of our people know that they're valuable and worth it. Dr. Martin Luther King says it starts with humility. Famous minister and civil rights activist says, if I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. The purpose of this quote is for all of us to know that regardless of the situation, it's our job to do the best for others today. These are the 3 things I've identified that separates a great leader versus a poor one when it comes to having grace. And first thing is response to action. A poor leader is quick to wrath, while a great one is quick to understand. One smacks it away, while the other one gives out their hand. For school, a poor teacher is quick to send a student to detention, but a great teacher figures out what happened, and if there's a pattern, they stick out their hand in extension. For sports, a poor coach will yell at a player or sub him out for missing an open man. Instead, a great coach will have a one-on-one talk instead of just barking commands. And then for work, a poor manager will chastise an employee for poor results in front of the team. Instead, a great manager has a one-on-one conversation and then creates a plan for them to succeed. So then next is conversations. A poor leader is quick to demean, which is a morale killer. Instead, a great leader encourages and becomes a pillar. A poor leader will only talk about the flaws and never praises any of the successes. But a great leader praises the successes and offers positive reinforcement when critiquing a flaw. That way, they all see the potential they foresaw. And then lastly is respect. A poor leader, when they feel like an employee or player isn't receiving their message or doing what they tell them to do, they lose respect for them entirely. And that's the last thing we can do. Instead, a great leader realizes almost nobody does anything to fail. It's our job as a leader to do the most we can for them to prevail. So Martin Luther King's question to all of us is, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Now we can answer that question with having grace for our sisters and brothers. So in conclusion, remember these 3 things. Point number 1, Be the example. It all starts with you. Point number 2, connect individually. It takes a team to succeed. And then point number 3, have grace, because nobody's perfect. Those 3 are the keys to leadership. From one witness to another, you are special. Hook out.